whatever side you're on, both sides should be angry at Stephanie Jones for starting this mess in the first place. And now Justin, thankfully, along with Jennifer Abel, are suing his former publicist, Stephanie Jones. Stephanie Jones initiated this catastrophic sequence of events.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds find themselves trapped in a brutal PR disaster after Justin Baldoni filed suit against his former publicist, who is allegedly pocketing suspicious payments from their side quietly.
A lot in Hollywood are afraid of that Stephanie was doing all this to massage and get her.
That's correct. Stephanie Jones was brought in to guard Baldoni's secrets, not sell them off to Team Blake like some bargain bin. But Baldoni isn't bluffing. He came armed with receipts. And things are turning ugly fast. Jones has grown increasingly paranoid, volatile, and harsh over recent years. Stephanie Jones built a reputation across Hollywood as someone you never want to cross. As the CEO of Jones Works PR, she has operated through intimidation, manipulation, and relentless erratic control. Her client roster reads like an industry power list. Dwayne Johnson, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady, and more recently, Blake Lively. Yet beneath the polished branding and strategic media spin stands a woman infamous for chaos. I don't believe there was a single day in that office when someone wasn't crying. Former staff describe a workplace dominated by fear, where employees often wept at their desks, and where Jones allegedly FaceTimed ill workers, even someone at a funeral to ensure they weren't lying. She didn't merely cross lines, she obliterated them.
And now Justin, thankfully, along with Jennifer Abel, are suing his former publicist, Stephanie Jones, alleging that she maliciously leaked texts that sparked the legal battle with Blake Lively.
She has also been accused of setting up fake social media profiles to harass former employees and reporters. Even respected journalists like Matt Bologna from Puck News were targeted. In one particularly troubling allegation, Jones reportedly told her team, citing a psychic reading, that her senior staffer Jennifer Al was both an alcoholic and a gambling addict.
Stephanie Jones initiated this catastrophic sequence of events by violating the most basic of privacy rights, as well as any remaining trust her clients held.
The allegation was completely fabricated, yet it was still repeated openly throughout the office. On another occasion, she reportedly claimed that the same psychic had foretold Al would be expecting twins despite her widely known fertility challenges. This went beyond toxic leadership. It became deeply personal, deliberate humiliation.
Jones maliciously turned over communications from the...
Stephanie's collapse began when she was terminated for cause by Wayfair Studios, yet she did not exit quietly. Within days, she reportedly switched allegiances, allegedly taking Jennifer Ael's phone and accessing confidential communications without authorization.
Took from her own partner to her cohort, Lively's personal publicist.
That very same day, she allegedly passed those stolen texts and emails directly into the possession of Leslie Sloan, the personal publicist for Blake Lively. This wasn't some accidental leak. It was a calculated, weaponized transfer of sensitive information.
Immediately after Jones was terminated for cause by Wayfair due to her own wrongful behavior. So basically, yeah, Stephanie Jones is fired by Wayfair. She's there defending Justin against Blake in the early days of the PR battle, the Retaliation campaign.
And it all unfolded on August 21st, 2020. Just 2 days before her planned exit from Jones Works, Jennifer Ael arrived expecting an ordinary workday. Instead, she walked into what appeared to be a carefully staged setup. At the Beverly Hills office of Jones Works, she was guided into a conference room where a security guard positioned himself between her and the door. Sitting at the table were a forensic data extraction technician and a company attorney. This was not a routine exit meeting, it was an ambush.
Stephanie Jones was part of it. And so now suddenly Stephanie Jones switches teams and gets this phone from Jennifer Abel, which we're going to go through more of the specifics that are alleged in here, and then immediately gives it over to Blake's publicist, Leslie Sloan.
Under extreme pressure and without any legal representation of her own, Al was forced to hand over both her company-issued laptop and her personal cell phone, including the one she had kept using since high school.
There's texts and calls where Melissa's being called saying, yeah, I have your phone. We have your friend's phone. We have all the information. Ha ha ha. How is this legal? How is this allowed? And was there actually a subpoena that the New York Times says there was when they got this phone?
According to her federal countersuit, Al emphasized that the number was linked to her iCloud, bank accounts, email, insurance, and nearly all of her two-factor authentication. Jones's chief of staff verbally assured her that the number would be transferred back once the transition was finalized.
She's a scary figure that, as previously reported, a lot in Hollywood are afraid of. But let's go there. I need your help. Let's go there. And I hope my fellow sleuths out there.
That promise turned out to be false. After surrendering the phone, Al went directly to a Verizon store, spending nearly 4 hours attempting to have Jones Works release the number as guaranteed. No one ever fulfilled the promise. The chief of staff ceased responding to her calls, leaving her employees.
We're all extremely tight-lipped and fearful of engaging in any sort of discussion about their experience with Jones Works.
The number was never restored. Overnight, Al found herself locked out of every essential service in her life: her bank, health insurance, personal files, and even communication with family and friends. Her digital identity had effectively been stolen by her own employer.
Baldoni, and particularly Abel witnessed Jones working with journalists to plant and contribute to negative stories about former clients who had fired Jones Works and Jones.
Even more disturbing is Al's assertion that Jones continues to hold her private data to this day, including photos, messages, and sensitive client communications. She fears additional leaks, particularly given Jones's documented pattern of retaliation and manipulation. Her lawsuit details how she now lives under the persistent threat that any piece of her personal information could be weaponized against her.
Friedman's paying attention and throwing those bones out to make sure that everybody, that Blake's team sees who they're helping and aligning with.
This went beyond corporate overreach. It could constitute criminal behavior. The countersuit describes how Al was allegedly compelled to sign exit documents under duress, all while a security guard monitored her. With her physical freedom restricted and legal threats looming, her attorneys contend this amounted to textbook false imprisonment.
That violates California labor laws, according to Abel's employment, according to the lawsuit, which makes, honestly, a lot of sense. It's like absolutely bonkers that they were able to.
Under California law, even brief physical restraint under coercion, particularly when linked to the surrender of property or rights, constitutes a serious violation. This incident wasn't merely about a phone. It was about wielding power, enforcing control, and instilling intimidation at an institutional level.
Quite erratic and cruel in recent years, shed light on the toxic workplace she had fostered at Jones Works, and regularly would turn on deafening music so that she could berate her employees free from scrutiny. I don't think there was one day in the office that someone wasn't crying.
What makes this situation even more sinister is that it was not an isolated incident. Multiple witness statements indicate this was a recurring pattern for Stephanie Jones. She didn't simply terminate Al and move on. She weaponized the contents of the stolen phone within hours.
Personal cell phone number, which would enable Jones Work to take possession of the physical device without gaining unrestrained access to its content. Again, so frustrating.
On the very day Al's phone was confiscated, August 21st, 2024, Jones allegedly forwarded its contents to Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's longtime publicist. What followed was a coordinated campaign aimed at portraying Wayfair Studios and Justin Baldoni as the source of the negative press surrounding It Ends With Us.
Nathan claims that Leslie Sloan calls her. We have call logs here coming in from previous documents that talked about this. Melissa Nathan is now suddenly called by Leslie Sloan, who gets information that clearly she only would have gotten from Jennifer Abel's phone.
Texts from the phone were edited, taken out of context, and used by Lively's team to confront Melissa Nathan, another Jones Works staffer. The rapid sequence of events shows this wasn't a spontaneous reaction. It was deliberate and premeditated. This is not the first instance in which Stephanie Jones has been accused of sabotaging people as they departed.
That the New York Times says there was when they got this phone. Those are all the questions being asked, and I want to go through. We're going to try and do a quick summary of this.
According to the countersuit filed in New York federal court, Al had been warned by industry insiders before joining Jones Works that Jones carried a notorious reputation for mistreating employees and retaliating against those who left. She had recently faced accusations of stealing clients from a rival PR firm and using deceptive and scrupulous tactics. That pattern repeated with Al, but on a far more invasive level. Jones aimed to exact revenge on Al, Wayfair, Baldoni and Nathan, exploiting the data she had unlawfully taken from AL's phone. After being terminated by Wayfair in mid-2024 for breach of contract, Jones immediately pursued retribution. Her actions were far from subtle. She began maneuvering behind the scenes to present herself as an asset to Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, offering AL's stolen communications as a way to gain favor.
For her last day on August 21st, right at the end of all the bad press that Blake's facing, she arrives in the office where she's confronted by a physically imposing security guard, forensic data extraction technical expert, and an attorney, all at a conference table awash in documents.
According to paragraph 97 of AL's cross-complaint, Jones delivered the contents of AL's phone to Lively and her team without any subpoena, enabling them to manipulate her communications and fabricate a false narrative regarding the origin of Lively's negative publicity.
Jonesworks suspected Abel had retained proprietary information on her laptop. Abel was told that Jonesworks would have grounds to sue if she'd not allow them access. Note here, Abel, clearly very naive. You should have let them sue you.
This claim, made on information and belief, is supported by the timing, the messaging chain, and the retaliatory measures taken by Lively's team immediately afterward. Jones's influence in the entertainment industry is further amplified by her personal connections.
Is married to a senior partner at WME. His name is Jason Hodes. WME is the, talent agency that reps Lively and Ryan Reynolds.
She is married to Jason Hodes, a top executive at WME, the same agency representing both Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Court filings indicate that Hodes even texted Jennifer AL's fiancé after her resignation, attempting to persuade her to remain at the firm.
What's going on? These people are so connected.
It's a very tight community up top. By the way, Melanie King, enjoy your work on this stuff, and I appreciate everything you've been putting out.
This degree of involvement is atypical for a talent executive and suggests deeper coordination. Legal analysts examining the case contend that the connection between Jones and WME may have shaped the aggressive way Lively's team acted on the materials supplied.
There was text between Stephanie Jones' husband and Ari Emanuel about Baldoni and this whole mess. I mean, that would not be privilege. That'd be something that you could get a hold of through a...
Jones also maintained direct ties with media outlets. Emails and messages cited in the legal filings reveal that she continued communicating with journalists and PR handlers well after being removed from Wayfair's accounts. She allegedly circumvented both Wayfair and Sony's internal teams to pitch stories and provide background, intensifying tensions in a media landscape already critical of Lively's film.
Out there, there's a universe of documents that people are still getting, and there's going to be some very happy people as those documents are disclosed, and there'll be some very sad people.
According to Wayfair's filings, Jones wasn't authorized to act on the company's behalf at the time. Yet she inserted herself directly into promotional discussions and media interactions, frequently undermining her own team's efforts. When confronted, she reportedly told Wayfair executives that she would do as she pleased, a remark documented in paragraph 90 of AL's legal filings.
Jennifer Abel's own lawsuit against Stephanie Jones.
That's right. It's their own lawsuit against Stephanie Jones. It's what we call a countersuit.
The sabotage was neither accidental nor an emotional overreaction. It was a deliberate, methodical effort to ruin reputations, mislead the press, and protect her own power, irrespective of the collateral damage. The fact that this harm stemmed directly from stolen data, coordinated media manipulation, and industry connections extending to Blake and Ryan's inner circle has made this case one of the most unsettling legal unravelings in recent Hollywood history.
California law gave such protections to Blake Lively under 47.1 of the Cal Civil Code, but we're going to see that California law gives every employee.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' legal strategy has been widely analyzed in headlines, yet few understand how critically flawed their initial actions were. What experts now describe as a catastrophic miscalculation involved suing individual employees, Jennifer Ale and Melissa Nathan, instead of targeting the PR firm actually responsible for the leaks, Jonesworks.
That Brian Friedman is actually going to be effectively arguing that California law should apply here, and he likes California law, and we're going to find out why in just a minute.
This wasn't merely a legal oversight. It was a decision that left Lively and Reynolds vulnerable to significant counterclaims while leaving Stephanie Jones, CEO of Jones Works, and the person directly responsible for the phone seizure and data leaks, untouched in their filings. Public court records from the Southern District of New York show that the defamation and interference claims targeted Al and Nathan personally, with no reference to Jones Works as a liable corporate entity. As a result, Al was able to countersue aggressively, invoking California labor protections that completely turned the narrative in her favor.
Right.
But now their allegations are going to be, but she didn't hold herself to that same standard.
Even though she had an agreement to keep all of Wayfair's information confidential.
At the same time, the couple attempted to distance themselves from the central controversy. Reynolds' legal filings claimed he had no direct involvement with It Ends With Us, neither in production nor promotion. However, that assertion didn't hold up. Multiple interviews before the film's release featured Blake Lively openly stating that Ryan helped rewrite certain scenes, including during an appearance on The Kelly Clarkson Show in March 2020. This contradicted their sworn statements and immediately drew scrutiny from media watchdogs.
Confidential.
Right.
But now their allegations are going to be, but she didn't hold herself to that same standard.
Even though she had an agreement to keep all of Wayfair's information confidential.
Yeah. So, I kind of felt like they were trying to show the juxtaposition of what Abel was required to do under the contract. Well, what about Stephanie Jones? Why didn't she do these things? So I think that was kind of what I got out of these allegations.
Even more incriminating were emails disclosed by Wayfair Studios, confirming that Ryan's marketing firm, Maximum Effort, was consulted multiple times on branding and rollout coordination. Internal correspondence from June 2020, just 2 months before the PR disaster peaked, showed Maximum Effort team members reviewing digital assets and providing notes. These emails were included in a broader complaint filed by Wayfarer against Jones Works, which attached screenshots of the communications. California law strongly protects employees, and in 2019, the legislature extended coverage under the FEHA to independent contractors, providing protections comparable to Title VII. Adding to the turmoil were Blake and Ryan's awkward press appearances during the initial backlash. On July 29, 2024, at the film's Manhattan premiere, Blake Lively appeared visibly uncomfortable answering questions about the film's social media fallout. A red carpet interview with Entertainment Tonight included vague remarks about misinformation and bad actors without naming anyone. Critics quickly noted the evasiveness, fueling online speculation that Blake was aware of the internal PR chaos and attempting to deflect.
Is really good for employees. And back in 2019, California legislature, in its infinite wisdom, decided that independent contractors would be covered under the FEHA. It's FEHA. It's our applicable law to Title.
Public opinion turned sharply negative. What began as skepticism over Blake Lively's casting quickly escalated into outright hostility when reports surfaced that former insiders were being sued and publicly shamed. Commentators like Andy Seener of Popcorn Planet described the lawsuit campaign as a textbook example of weaponized litigation, targeting former collaborators to protect a collapsing narrative. Instead of appearing as victims of sabotage, Lively and Ryan Reynolds were now perceived as the aggressors.
Dice or communications to construct a false narrative about the source of Lively's bad publicity. That's clutch, right?
Jennifer Ailes' legal team capitalized fully on this shift, leveraging California law aggressively. In September 2024, Ailes' attorneys filed a countersuit citing California Labor Code Section 925 and Business and Professions Code Section 16660. Section 9 specifically shields employees from being compelled to resolve disputes in out-of-state courts when their work was performed primarily in California.
Malicious scheme. Abel's life has been turned upside down. Her career and reputation have been destroyed. Her private information leaked. Her email inbox, social media pages filled with daily stream of death threats, etc. Backlash against Wayfair, as we know, equally.
Al, who had been working out of Jones Works' Los Angeles office for California-based clients like Wayfair, fell squarely under these protections. Paragraph 36 of her countersuit makes this clear. Her employment contracts from both 2020 included unlawful non-compete clauses, extensive non-solicitation restrictions, and overly broad confidentiality requirements, all of which are unenforceable under California law.
Page 42. Because California actually has a labor code, Section 925, that specifically talks about whether or not these type of contracts are enforceable and whether they can be enforced.
Section 25 permits such contracts to be declared void ab initio, meaning invalid from the outset. Al not only invoked her right to void the agreements, but also sought reasonable attorney's fees, which the court may grant under subsection C of the statute. She didn't stop there. Her legal filings include multiple tort-based claims, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. This past summer,
This works because California has a strong public policy that we don't want employees to be locked into contracts that do certain things. And you can see under A there's two things that an employment contract cannot do. It can't require the employee to adjudicate outside of California for a claim arising in California, and it can't deprive the employee of the substantive protection of California.
these claims arise directly from the August 21st ambush in Beverly Hills, where she was cornered, had her devices confiscated, and was allegedly coerced into signing paperwork under duress. The false imprisonment claim is supported by the presence of a private security guard who physically blocked her exit during the device handover. Her legal team contends that this action alone constituted unlawful confinement, a key element under California Civil Code.
Last summer, Abel pulls up to Jones' work in Beverly Hills, their LA office, and she's confronted. Brian Friedman talks about it, the physically imposing security guard. There's a forensic data extraction technical expert, and there's even an attorney at a conference room table awash with documents. I mean,
Another serious claim is invasion of privacy. Paragraph 66 of AL's countercomplaint alleges that Stephanie Jones unlawfully accessed, copied, and distributed private data from AL's phone, including texts and emails. The violation is particularly severe because AL's phone contained both personal and client communications, some involving sensitive PR matters for Wayfair, Sony, and other partners.
Well, notices that the security guard is being placed between the door where she can leave and where she is in the conference room. And it just, it's a big imposing security guard. To her it is, and she just feels threatened, and she's not.
They argue that she took documents she had no right to take, yet they found nothing on the laptop. Despite being bound by a strict confidentiality clause herself, Jones had no qualms about leaking those very communications to Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively's publicist. As confirmed by Al in paragraph 92 of the filing, the hypocrisy is glaring. Jones demanded that her employees adhere to confidentiality rules precisely. Her 2020 employment contract defined confidentiality so broadly that it encompassed even non-public internal workflow methods and staff structures. Yet Jones herself, in a documented violation, leaked client and employee data without consent or legal authority. No subpoena, no court order. Legal experts note this could constitute both a civil and potentially criminal breach of California's stringent data protection laws.
She apparently felt intimidated, and I don't blame her. So it's within that meeting where they have her sign a bunch of documents, and they demand to search her laptop because they claim that she took documents she shouldn't have taken. And
They don't find anything on the laptop.
If Al prevails in court, Jones' works, and by extension, Jones herself, could be liable for compensatory damages, legal fees, and suffer reputational harm severe enough to potentially collapse the firm. Multiple former employees are reportedly weighing whether to provide additional testimony, including one who allegedly possesses video footage of Jones yelling at staff inside the Los Angeles office. The toxic culture, once merely whispered about, now carries legal consequences.
Same environment, but apparently at Jones' work, there wasn't a day that would go by in the office that someone wasn't crying.
yeah,
And I asked producer Eric, is there any crying going on around the office here? I want to make sure we're not having a Jones work.
Meanwhile, Lively and Reynolds are now tied to this collapse, by association, and in Ryan's case, through contradictory filings. They erred by attempting to control the narrative by targeting employees who were likely following orders. Rather than addressing the true source of the misconduct, Stephanie Jones, they shielded and empowered her, allowing her to operate unchecked. Now the tables are turning. Multiple industry insiders, including former Jones Works employees and clients, reportedly possess evidence of misconduct, but refuse to speak on record. The reason is consistent: fear of retaliation. Some allege they have seen Jones use fake social media accounts to harass former staffers.
A liberal state, I'm sure there's similar protections up there.
Others assert that she directly reached out to media outlets like Puck News to plant negative stories about departing clients or former collaborators. According to at least 2 anonymous sources referenced in internal court communications, Jones has a long-standing reputation for taking a scorched earth approach against anyone she considers disloyal.
No, that's over the top. I mean, nobody would like.
One individual who didn't remain silent was Jed Wallace, a crisis consultant named in Blake Lively's legal complaint. Wallace submitted a declaration under penalty of perjury in October 2024, denying every accusation against him. He asserted that he never ran a digital smear campaign, never manipulated social platforms, and never executed any social combat plan, a term used by Lively's team in court filings. Instead, Wallace stated he was hired by Melissa Nathan solely to monitor sentiment, nothing more.
Right, but it sounds like it was procured in a bad manner. But this isn't like fruit of the poisonous tree in a criminal case where it was produced without reading, the criminal their rights, and therefore you can't use it.
In his sworn statement, Wallace disclosed that his company, Street Relations, specializes in crisis mitigation for trauma victims. He emphasized that he never directed or compensated anyone to post content about Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Wayfair, or Justin Baldoni. Most notably, in paragraph 21 of his declaration, Wallace stated, "I do not have a digital army in Los Angeles, New York, or anywhere else." He characterized the entire narrative crafted by Lively's team as inaccurate and misleading. The message was clear. This was not merely a misunderstanding. It was a coordinated attempt at deflection.
This declaration, which we're about to look at, he makes them under penalty of perjury, meaning he can be beat up with these later in deposition and at court. And you don't normally see, like Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, nobody's coming out putting declarations out right now.
Beyond the individuals involved, this case highlights a much larger issue: the systemic abuse of PR power in Hollywood. Jones is not the only person accused of manipulating media coverage or planting misleading narratives, but her case is among the few with documented text messages, phone seizures, and witness testimony, all demonstrating how weaponized PR operates behind closed doors. This is no longer theoretical. It is undeniable.
Wayfair was concerned according to these allegations.
And then she kind of reinserts herself while on a vacation in Europe, according to
The lawsuit also reveals how easily public figures can deflect accountability by shifting blame downward. Rather than confronting Jones' work's role in leaking private data, Blake Lively's legal team sued Jennifer Ale and Melissa Nathan, employees with far less institutional power. Nathan was even threatened over the content of those texts. Both became scapegoats, while Jones remained publicly unchallenged by Lively or Ryan Reynolds. That decision was not accidental. It was strategic.
I'm on page 58. So Jones now inserts herself into the mix in early August 2024, and they say the problem, however, was that Jones had chosen not to be privy to Wayfair leadership's communication strategy or internal decision-making. So she didn't know what was going on, and one of the things that Jennifer Abel had worked out with Lively, or she thought she worked out with Lively, is that they were going to call a truce and nobody was going to try to talk.
The larger question now facing Hollywood is whether this marks a true moment of reckoning. The entertainment industry has long relied on strategic PR to spin stories, silence insiders, and shield powerful figures. Yet as more documents leak and legal filings accumulate, the default practice of operating in secrecy is increasingly indefensible. Every new court motion brings additional evidence, every ignored complaint becomes a liability, and every high-profile silence now feels like complicity. And the story is far from over. To stay updated, hit subscribe and share your thoughts below if you want us to cover something special.